We're going to be looking at some number properties here, and first of all we're going to start by looking at some key number properties you need to be aware of and the type of things that you might need to do. One of the first things is multiplying by 0. So any number multiplied by 0 is going to give 0, because you're essentially saying I want no 5s or no 10s. Looks more like a 6 there, is 0, or in more general terms, n times 0 equals 0. So that's the first important property. Also, multiplying by negatives is quite important. If you take a positive number and multiply it by a negative number, then you're going to get a negative answer. And if you take a negative number and multiply it by a negative number, you get a positive answer. And those are the properties you also need to be aware of. And finally, multiplying by a number between 0 and 1. So if I were to take something like 20 and multiply it by 0.5, which is a half, it's going to halve it. So multiplying by a number less than 1 but greater than 0 will reduce the number in size. This one here, 0.1, is a tenth, so it's the same as dividing it by 10. So we'll end up with 12.5. And finally, if we just do something like 3 times 0.6, well, 3 times 6 would be 18. 3 times 0.6 get it slightly smaller, so the decimal point will move one to the left, or the numbers will move one to the right. Okay, with that in mind, let's have a go at this question on the right. Two numbers multiplied to make 0. One of the statements below is true. Both numbers must be 0. Well, we've seen over here that one of the numbers doesn't have to be 0. So at least one number must be 0. Well, that's the case in all of these. And that means that would 0 times 0 work? So as long as 0 times 0 is 0, then that's true. Exactly one number must be 0. Well, this one's got 2, so that doesn't quite apply. Neither number can be 0. No, that's not true. So it's going to be that one there. Two numbers add to make 0. And one number is 0. What is the other? Well, if we're starting on 0 and we're going to add something to it, anything else other than 0 would make it go up or down. So if one number is 0, what's the other number? It's going to be 0. If neither number is 0, give an example of what numbers could be. Well, if we're going to add two numbers together and they're going to end up as 0, one's got to be a positive. And then if we add on a negative 5, 5 positives, 5 negatives, that will give me 0. So any example where you've got a number and then the negative version of that number will work. I've given it in general terms, n and minus n, but if you put 5 and minus 5, 2 and minus 2, 17 and minus 17, and so on, you'll be fine. Hope that helped.